Meeting of the committee, the executive committee of Washington County Board to order. We do have a quorum, and this meeting is in compliance with the open meeting. I guess we can dispense with reading that. We already know that. We are posted, right, Mary?
Yes.
Okay, very good. Let's start with pledge allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And I see we have Carol Mary and we have Don Creepwall joining us on Zoom.
Michael Cody is also on. He's just not on video right now.
Okay, so Mike is with us as well. He's our County Board Legislative Assistant. If anybody hasn't met him yet, please make sure you do so because we're going to be working a lot with him. Okay. The consent agenda, we'll entertain a motion.
So move for acceptance.
Jeff's first,
Second.
Chris is second. And any comments, concerns? Hearing none, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, we have a consent agenda, discussion items. Oh, I'm sorry, opposed? Anybody? Okay. Discussion items, potential hire of a grant writer, who's gonna be taking that?
We're gonna ask if we can push that to the February meeting. The information I requested, I just got 2 days ago, so I haven't even had time to look at it.
All right.
Take a motion to postpone to next month, so I think
Okay.
we need.
All right, so let's take a motion to postpone to next month. Motion,
moved. Second.
Chris and Jeff. We'll move that to next month. All right, another discussion item, uniquely Wisconsin ARPA funds.
Yeah, so this is it's for those of you who are at the WCA conference, you've already heard the whole spiel, but this is a partnership between WCA, 10 individual counties throughout the state, at least initially in the first round, and Discover Wisconsin, Discover Media Works, is their working title. And basically it's a tourism initiative promoting those 10 counties across the state and trying to get people to come and visit. Specifically, we're aiming at small mom and pop type of outfits. This isn't the typical Brewers, Packers, Wisconsin Dells kind of promotional activity that sometimes you see Discover Wisconsin do. But it is more aimed at the local joints, the Gehring's Meat Markets, the Hell's, Red Apple Cafe, places like that are locally owned that make our individual communities unique, and we'll kind of have fun with it. You know, who has the best fish fry and who has the best old fashioned and how far up north is up north in Wisconsin and all that kind of stuff. So this is each one of the counties. The bill for working with Discover Media Works is actually a contract through WCA, and then they're the ones contracting with Discover Media Works. The price tag is $60,000. To put that in some context, a typical Discover Wisconsin contract, one that they've approached us with in the past, is generally speaking the same types of products, which I'll go through in a second. But you're typically looking at a much deeper dive into your community, and you're also generally looking at about 4 to 5 times the cost. So somewhere in the $250,000, $300,000 range. Of course, you're getting a much more intense look, but it's usually much more significant. This is intended, number one, to feature those local options like I talked about, but also then leverage across county to county, kind of cross-pollinate, if you will, social media platforms, websites, site optimization, and then also have access to some of the other things that Discover Wisconsin does as well. So the products that will be delivered are broadcast on Discover Wisconsin's regional TV network. So it's similar to what you see when they put out their products. There's two big differences. One is you'll never see Discover Wisconsin on anything. Uniquely Wisconsin is going to be its own brand, and it's going to be specific to whatever counties come the first 10, and then we're hoping another round of 10 and another round of 10. It's also not going to be the typical 30-minute segment where there's 4 commercial breaks, each of them approximately 3 to 4 minutes. In this case, it's going to be two one-time only like documentaries. So that means there will be 2 minutes of commercial on the front end and 2 minutes commercial on the back end, and then 26 minutes straight of content covering all the different counties. And there'll be 2 of them. In addition to that, they're going to be, each county is going to have its own commercial that are going to rotate on all the typical, the standard Discover Wisconsin programs. So one of the commercials in those 3 to 4 minute segments will always be, throughout the year, will be one of the about uniquely Wisconsin. Here's a shot about Washington County in 30 to 60 seconds. And
So we are one of the 10 counties.
yes, and that's exactly what we're talking
Oh,
about today.
that's what, yeah.
Yep.
I couldn't tell that until you just said that.
We are one of the first 10 counties. The other thing that we'll have is there'll be 30, each county gets 3 30-second TV commercials that we will own. So Washington County will have 3 30-second commercials that we own. It can be used and will be used on the Discover Wisconsin Regional Network, but we can also use it locally. So if you ever especially watch Brewery games or Bucks games, you'll notice like our Washington County Commuter Express frequently has ads that run on there. We can purchase time and run these ads, which obviously a high degree of professionalism put into them as well. In addition to that, if you have questions, I can go in detail on some of these things. But in addition to that, there will be a docuseries that's created. Think of like a Netflix series that'll be deeper dives. So you get the 2 that run on all the broadcast television, and then you get a docuseries that run on basically on Discover Wisconsin's YouTube channels. And then our goal is to have every one of the counties run it on their own YouTube channel, which is how we can drive viewership up. So there will be 10, 15 to 18 minute digital shorts is what they're called. That's basically the equivalent of like watching a 30-minute special. And then finally, there's some partnership marketing that'll happen too in the form of podcasts. Discover Wisconsin has a podcast called The Cabin. Each county will get its own feature on that podcast. And then the last thing, and this I think is kind of the most compelling part, is they do a program, and it's actually started with cobblestone hotels throughout the state. They call it a passport to adventure. So they basically get people to sign up for their programming. Are you interested in a newsletter? Blah, blah, blah. And they basically compile all of the data and allow every county that participates to have access to that data and promote your individual county, any freebies you're giving away and events that are going on in your county that you really want to promote. So we'll open that up to all the chambers and the tourism organizations throughout the county to be able to come through us to have access to. So what it ends up being is kind of, they call it passport to adventure, but it basically gives a promotion. We're going to give away a free night at the Cobblestone Hotel or free weekend at the Cobblestone Hotel in Hartford, for example. Everybody sign up for it, and when they sign up, they fill out all their data, and of course you capture all the data, and now you're able to use that list of people. So that is what allows them then to track heads and beds, and basically will be able to give us some data points on how well is the tourism initiative working. And again, for about 25%, quarter of the cost, 1/5 of the cost of what it normally would be. So that's the plan, consistent with the policy that you approved. We're intending to use ARPA funds. Initially, it'll be a $60,000 investment. It's possible because it's Washington County and I'm the president of WCAA that we double it, and we happen to get twice as much as everybody else, $120,000, but our plan is to do $60,000 right now and be one of the initial 10 counties involved. And there are 7 counties who are going through exactly what we're doing right now.
Question for the group, please. Is this going to be coordinated through local tourism or someone, a particular office within the county?
That is a wonderful question. So I have had conversations with some of the board members in Visit Washington County. I think probably the most diplomatic way for me to answer that question is to say whoever is responsible for Visit Washington County should probably have an agenda item about the future of Visit Washington County.
I assume you're referencing Elaine's office, or are we going to go to each of the municipalities who have their own tourism groups?
Yeah, I think you just pointed out the problem with our tourism situation in Washington County. Maybe unintentionally, maybe intentionally. I'll give you a really good, just anecdotal example of this. I think it was today's paper, West Bend announced $100,000 in grants from the state tourism department that they allocated across the city of West Bend. At the same exact time that Visit Washington County is trying to do county collaborative tourism work. I know Germantown has a tourism arm. I know Hartford has a tourism arm. Kewaskum has some semblance of a tourism arm. It's hard to follow who is it that we're supposed to be trying to help here. So that's a much deeper question. But we will have a conversation with Visit Washington County on how they can participate. But I think that needs to get addressed long term. Makes no sense the way we're doing tourism right now, in my opinion.
Collaboration is something we could use.
Yeah, there's about 5 silos that I know of right now. And they don't talk to each other, let alone get along. I'm sure some of them do.
That sounds like an executive thing. Any other questions on this item?
What's our timetable?
So the actual work itself will start in the next 2 months. We should have final products that you start seeing right around the beginning of the second, I shouldn't say the beginning, somewhere in the second quarter.
And who manages and controls the airing schedule?
Discover Media Works does.
Okay, thank you.
It's more of a question about how long does it take to get the 10th county to get through committee and board and sign contracts and all of that.
Can you name the counties?
I can try. Sauk County, Rock, Marathon, Portage, Monroe, us obviously, Jefferson, La Crosse. I just talked to Kewanee and St. Croix, and there's a few of them on the fence, and then Brown and Winnebago.
Sauk is in though, right?
Yeah, the ones who have signed or are imminently signing: Portage, Washington, Sauk, Marathon, Rock, those 5. They have the approvals needed now. It's just sitting in probably attorney land, I'm assuming.
All right.
If we end up with 9, that's when we may step in and just do the 10th and we get double duty on everything. I'd be okay with it.
And hopefully find a way to coordinate it with our local municipalities and get together and get them on board, especially if they see something that we can show them and say, look, you want to be a part of this? Maybe we can bring that money together.
Right. Especially when we're highlighting like really micro local kind of outfits. You know, it's not going to be this isn't a good example, but it's not going to be the Walmarts or the Starbuckses. It's going to be the locally mom and pop, the Scoop
Bits and
DeVille's.
pieces.
Yeah, exactly.
That type of thing.
The stuff that's unique to us.
Very good. Any other questions on this item? All right, is there anything else you need from us on that?
My only question for you moving forward, you know, we have another tranche of ARPA money. And this is just for you to start considering. This is the procedure that we've established for ARPA money now. You accepted the grant, you'll remember, and then you adopted the resolution saying, you know, work it into the budget kind of thing. the next tranche of money is coming in May. So as executive committee in particular, you should start thinking about, is this process satisfactory to you? Would you rather go through a more urgent, arduous process? I just would ask that the committee contemplate that, because in the next few months, especially once we have the new board, we'll get another round of $13.1 million. Is this working? It isn't it? Please
So
think about
far,
that.
I'd say it is. The only concern I guess I would have is, with the new board coming on, I'm kind of two minds about that. Might be that the new board should maybe make that decision rather than us making it for them, but then again, they might not have the experience to make that decision, so.
That's why I ask you, just think about it.
Yeah,
We'll talk about it in the months ahead.
good. All right, thank you for that. Okay, moving on. We'll go to action items, ordinance, amend chapters 15, 49, and 70 of the county code. I will take a motion. Mr. Mahalik, and a second
I will second.
by Jeff Schleif. And let's have our illustrious attorney walk us through.
Sure, we talked a little bit about some of this a while back in another meeting, and I ran you through some of the potential changes that were going to come as a result of the committee structure changing with the reduction in the number of supervisors that we have. And I'd also talked to you a little bit about some of the procedural or rule changes, and so I went through and incorporated those things. If you look at the draft ordinances that are before you, 15, 49, and 70, there don't appear to be a ton of changes. Realistically, it was mainly a reorganization and a reduction in the size of, in number of committees, and then moving some of those duties around. That was really what we set out to accomplish. And then the report I wrote indicates some of the rule changes that you'll see in there. I'm happy to talk about any of those things or walk you through any of it, but I think you've seen some of it in prior meetings, but if you have any specific questions, I'm happy to address those things for you as well.
All right, we are open for discussion. Ms. Dice.
I just have one question,
Sure.
Brad. I wanted to confirm that in your on the committee report under discussion, that first paragraph, the last sentence talks about changes to the code provide that a supervisor may be removed from his or her committee assignment only by a 2/3 vote of members elect. Does members elect mean the whole county board?
Yes.
So 14.
Yeah, whatever that would be with the new, Yeah, we had talked about that at the last time we gathered, because there was really no mechanism by which a supervisor could be removed from a committee. And so if you're doing something that drastic, potentially, you'd want 2/3 members elect of the board to weigh in on that.
I would think, at least minimally, that's really a nuclear option that we hope to never actually have to use, because something like that, I mean, this person was elected by the people. So removing somebody from.
We're not removing them from office.
Right.
Well, you're
Just a
removing them
committee.
from a committee, which is still a removal of some of their power.
Severely,
So it's a very serious matter is all that I'm trying to say.
Right, and I'm not suggesting by putting this in here that we should be doing this routinely, but it was something that we lacked in the code that we needed to address.
And that was my point, is that this is something we hope to never have to use. But it should be at least codified in there.
Correct.
But if you have someone who's not attending the committee meetings at all,
Yes,
this would basically take them off of there.
or at least make a threat enough that they didn't look, rather than actually having to use it. Just the fact that it's there and could be used might be all that is necessary.
Right.
Okay. Anything else? More discussion?
I'm still looking for what I thought I read before. In my first read through, I thought that it said budgetary responsibility for the buildings, facilities at UW Washington County or UWM Washington County fell under executive, but then the responsibility for maintaining those facilities fell under Public Works and Transportation, where it is now. And now I can't find that
Might be looking at page 23 in the
Okay.
changes to chapter 15.
Yeah,
15-28, I think, code provision.
so to be clear, the budget for that work should be under Public Works. I mean, that's what we did in the past.
All we did in that particular section that you see is change administrative to executive committee. We didn't move anything around there. If you feel it should go somewhere else, we can certainly make that change. That was one of those more administrative changes that just reflected a change in the committee versus moving that someplace else. So if it's the committee's will that be somewhere else, that's fine. Just let us know. We can amend that. We can make that amendment tonight.
Well, there was a specific reference to UWM Washington County, and it's not in here anymore, so maybe I was dreaming that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't see
I
it.
beg the board's pardon.
But basically, you didn't see anything in here that, I mean, from what I've seen, most of it was just kind of cleaning up the language, fitting it to 21 supervisors instead of 26.
Right, and we took, for example, 15-37 and moved it under 15-27 so it'd be more streamlined, so we moved some things around, but we didn't change anything else. We did make a couple of rule changes that I consulted with this committee on, for example, a motion to rescind and how we're gonna do that is in here. Definition of the term appropriation is in here now, which will help the finance department and budget department know when maybe a budgetary amendment has to come, that kind of thing. But those are pretty basic things that we did, procedure.
It is on page 23, under executive, UWMWC campus buildings. So what are we talking about there?
That's where it was before, except it was administrative, we just changed it to executive, so
Okay,
we didn't move that. We didn't move that there, but that was just, we just changed the name of the committee.
yeah, because later on page 26, sub-item 6A is all those campus grounds and facilities are under Public Works, so it seems to me.
Yeah,
that
the standing committee, right, would be Public Works,
Right,
pursuant to that section, right?
okay. It just
But
seems
we can-
those two
yeah.
items conflict each other.
It's possible, we could certainly cross out executive even from this section, and then it would fall under Public Works above it, so.
Okay,
If you'd like us to do that, we can do it by a motion tonight to amend, or I could just make the change administratively, because what you're actually passing is a more of a umbrella type ordinance that, so we could make that change administratively, or if you want me to look into it a little bit further and kind of get the history on it, we can figure that out too.
well, yes, but I think the
But I see what you're saying.
intent has been that
Yeah.
those campus buildings have always been under a facilities group under Public Works, so.
Josh?
I would ask the committee to clarify what that means, and the reason I'm interested in it is the future of the UWMWC campus, it can't be great. Because of the way that the UW system's funded and the enrollment throughout all universities, but particularly throughout UW system is in massive decline. If you read John Trinus's article yesterday in the Daily News, he actually did a really nice job of framing the issue. This is going to be something, it may not be the next term, it could be the term after, but it's going to come to you in one way, shape, or form. And it's possible it could be as extreme as the UW system closing those campuses. I kind of doubt they'll do that, but it's possible, especially if the Republicans have complete control and 2/3 control, complete control all the way across, I mean, I could see some humongous reform. So I think it would be helpful to clarify who's responsible for that relationship and the buildings, and not bifurcate and make us kind of run back and forth between committees.
And that's how it's worded out. The buildings would fall under executive, but basically the liaison committee for that entity would be.
Yeah, I think you should just make it clear it's one group we're reporting to, and then that goes from there to the board.
Given the scope of that issue, would it be better to be under executive then? Like, what's everybody's thoughts on that?
But the
Just to be
maintenance and
clear,
care of
it
those
doesn't matter to
buildings.
me, I don't want us staff to have to come to,
Two different-
including the UW people, coming to one committee and then going to another
Yeah.
committee.
We're doing a joint committee meeting.
Right, that's just.
You know, yeah,
The maintenance care of those buildings falls under public works.
yeah.
We could make that change.
Okay.
But
If
if
it's
you
the-
do.
If we decide to close that down, that's gonna end up, it's gonna be an executive.
I would think then if it's Public Works, I wouldn't have a problem with Public Works basically being the committee that it would all go to. Because should something like that occur, it's only gonna pass through Public Works to the full board, I would
Right.
understand.
Absolutely.
So therefore, I believe in the interest of efficiency, yeah, I could support that if somebody would like to make a motion, Mayor.
So moved.
Okay. And, I'll go ahead and second it myself. And,
I'll defer to
Yeah.
that second.
And what we'll do then, if this passes, which I assume it shall in a moment, we'll cross out executive, and then it'll automatically fall under public works because that's the heading above it.
Right.
okay, so moving it to Public Works. Should we take a vote on that parliamentary?
Yeah, you should, yeah.
All right.
For
So we are voting to move it from executive to Public Works. If everybody's in agreement with that, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it.
Gotcha, okay, change
Will be under Public Works. Good catch, Mr. Slade. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Brad, can you get me
All right. Anything else on this? Any other questions in the codification? All right, hearing none, then you will vote on the whole codification. This would move on, correct?
This will go to county board February.
So.
But I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, it won't take effect until the new session in April
Yes,
this year.
yes, of course, yes. Okay, so we will be voting then to move this on to the full county board. This change in codification to take effect with the new county board in April. So all in agreement, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, so it will pass through the board. And I believe that is that. Now, next meeting date is February 16th